And now, your daily dose of debate, breaking news, and uncensored views. This is the Michael Medved Show.
And another great day in this greatest nation on God's green earth. But if you're looking for great and positive and reassuring developments involving the war with Iran, well, you're going to have to look harder because they're not visible. And in fact, they're being denied by President Trump himself. CBS News reporting that President Trump said today that there is no ongoing dialogue with Iran to end the war. No dialogue whatsoever. And no discussions are scheduled. His son-in-law and envoy, Jared Kushner, told Fox News yesterday that Iran is, quote, not showing any interest in striking a deal that makes sense for the United States. Nearly 6 months into the conflict, isn't that unbelievable? The U.S. and Iran remain locked in a standoff over control over the Strait of Hormuz. And meanwhile, there is this from NBC. Russia is shipping explosives to Iran to bolster its missiles and drone arsenal in the U.S. war. The Russian shipments, which haven't been previously reported, underscore the deepening strategic alliance between Moscow and Tehran. We will be speaking later in this program with Gordon Chang about the current crisis with South Korea, our ally, which is very angry about President Trump suggesting that he doesn't want to have full participation in a joint military exercises, which has long been scheduled with South Korea. There is also today primary election schedule, primary elections which are being held in Alaska and Florida, the other side of the country, and in Wyoming as the November midterms loom. Alaska is emerging as a top battleground for both parties as the incumbent Republican Senator Dan Sullivan tries to fend off a previous a serious primary challenge from Democratic Representative Mary Pertola. They have in the primaries, it's the two top vote getters. It's not getting one Republican candidate and one Democratic candidate. They could end up selecting two Republican candidates in a heavily Republican state, giving a sure thing victory to the Republican Party in Alaska, or it could go the other way. The tax revisions, which are a big issue for Representative Mary Pertola, she's a former Democratic representative. Alaska only has one member of the House because it has a spotty population despite all that beautiful land area. Meanwhile, Florida is holding both gubernatorial and Senate primaries, with data centers becoming a top issue among voters. Wyoming voters will choose a successor to the crypto queen, as she chooses to be known, the Republican incumbent Senator Cynthia Lummis, who is retiring at the end of her term. Meanwhile, there is this about the roadless rule. The Trump administration advanced a plan today to open about 45 million acres of land in national forests, that's federal land, to open it up to road construction and other development. The land's protection, which aim to preserve the wild nature of the backcountry, date back to 2001. And there are two national monuments that were established in Utah, Bears Ears National Monument and Grand Staircase National Monument. And President Trump is working to remove up to 90% of the land area in those national monuments and to open them particularly for mining, which he believes is a matter of national security and of basically economic survival. We will see how that goes. Meanwhile, over at the Justice Department, a federal judge has released a woman charged with vandalizing the World War II memorial in Washington, D.C. The federal judge has released her over the objections of Jeanine Pirro, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, who argued that this woman posed a flight risk. Meanwhile, the midterm elections, President Trump did something that he disapproves of very strongly, but he did it. He voted by mail again, ahead of Florida's Republican primary, which is today, according to the White House, participating for at least the third time in a practice that he has railed against for years and has equated to cheating. I have no idea if there is any kind of logic to the notion that of doing something that is completely legal and is authorized and is practiced by a third of American voters, which is putting your ballot in the mail and voting by mail. How is that cheating? And here is something where people could jump on to disapproval and attack President Trump for cheating, but I won't do that because I don't think that voting by mail is cheating at all. And the fact that he continues to talk about eliminating this practice while he is engaged in it, does this mean that he believes there should be different standards for the President of the United States and an ordinary citizen? Well, okay, fair enough. But again, the notion that it is somehow dishonest or cheating or fraudulent for people to consider their ballots at home, to mark them up and to put them in the mail, this is ridiculous. Meanwhile, the New York Times is reporting that a ship in the Strait of Hormuz has been attacked, maritime officials said today, as a declining number of vessels brave the dangerous passageway. An unidentified vessel was struck by an unknown projectile as it exited the Persian Gulf via Omani waters in the strait, claiming a crew casualty, that according to the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations Agency. The agency reported that the engine room was damaged and that the Omani Coast Guard Reserve rescued crew members. Iran has not commented on the attack, but they have been presumed to be the source of it. As the conflict between Iran and the United States stretches into its 6th month, traffic in the vital waterway through which 1/5 of the world's oil and gas supplies moved before the war began has dwindled. The average number of ships transiting the strait over the last week was about 12 vessels per day, down from more than 130 a day before the United States attacked Iran in late February. We will get back to more and the latest on putting an end to this appalling war and more coming up on the Medved Show. Ding, 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 ding.
Get 50% off by becoming an annual Medhead member.
Nice.
Join at michaelmedved.com.
Real nice.
Ding, 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 ding. And on the Michael Medved Show, do you remember the MOU? That was 60 days ago. That document set a deadline to establish a peace deal. And we had 60 days to do it. Those 60 days are now up. It was signed by President Donald Trump and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian on June 17th. It expired yesterday with talks largely stalled and no sign of any impending deal to open the Strait of Hormuz or secure Iran's nuclear program. Secure means end, means destroy, means obliterate, as President Trump had claimed to have obliterated it before. President Trump told reporters yesterday that the U.S. is not seeking an extension of the Memorandum of Understanding, saying Iran would not make the kind of deal that he thought necessary. In other words, they're not ready to give up. He also threatened to bomb Oman, which has been in talks with Iran about reopening the strait. He said he would bomb Oman, which is considered to be a U.S. ally, and they've been very supportive of the United States and trying to bring an end to this war. But he threatened to bomb Oman, which has been in talks with Iran about reopening the Strait of Hormuz. If the country gets in the way of U.S. efforts to reopen the waterway and end the war, Trump's threat came after Iran's foreign ministry spokesman, Esmail Baghai, told reporters that Tehran had come to an agreement with Oman on managing shipping routes through the Strait of Hormuz, which is right between the nation of Oman and the nation of Iran. And under the Iran-Oman deal, ships could enter the strait through a route close to Iran, exit through a route close to Oman, and pay no fees or tolls during an interim period. I'm not at all sure what's wrong with that, but that's at least on the table, maybe. Trump has put forward the following post. There are no talks or conversations going on or scheduled, he says, with the Islamic Republic of Iran. The naval blockade remains in full force, the president says, and effect. The Hormuz Strait is open and operating. Yeah, but it's operating at less than 1/10 the level it did before the war. All water mines have been removed or detonated. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And then there is the issue with South Korea and the president having posted on his website on Truth Social a statement suggesting that he regrets the United States' involvement with joint military exercises with our ally in South Korea. And he then gave a talk in the Oval Office about this situation that ended with an explosive reaction by the president toward a reporter. This is what the president had to say about South Korea, which has caused something of a crisis in our relations with that country, which we'll be talking about with Gordon Chang coming up. Here is President Trump on our ally in South Korea, clip 16.
South Korea has been protected by us for many, many years. And during my first term, they agreed to pay close to $3 billion a year for protection because we don't, they essentially weren't there. And I asked them to do that at my request. I said, not right. They weren't happy about it, but they agreed. I asked for $10 billion, and they were very unhappy. But we agreed for a short term that it would be $3 billion, and next year it would go up, and the next year it would go up, so they start paying for their protection. When the election was rigged and I ended up watching for 4 years and then coming back, I watched Biden rescind that $3 billion a year for whatever reason. When I called recently the president of South Korea, who I like, I think he's very nice, actually, but I called him, I said, would you like to give us a little hand? We don't need help with Iran, but if you'd like, give us a hand with Iran. He said, no, thanks. And I said, wait a minute, we have 39,000 soldiers over there guarding you from Kim Jong-un, your next door neighbor, and you're not going to help us on a very easy military operation in Iran? That's strange. No, we'd rather not get involved. I say, well, why are we involved in helping you?
This is President Trump. And then South Korea actually does pay billions of dollars under formal cost-sharing agreements to help offset the expense of hosting not 39,000, but roughly 28,500 American troops on its territory. South Korea and the U.S. have used formal special measures agreements since 1991 to share the local financial costs of the U.S. military presence. So, meanwhile, he continued, the president, to lay into South Korea for not helping the U.S. in our war with Iran. This is clip 15.
And I want to help them, but when you ask somebody, would you like to give us a hand? And they say, no, thanks. And then we're guarding them from a country and paying ourselves it's costing us billions and billions of dollars to protect not only them, but other countries. Look at NATO. We spend hundreds of billions of dollars protecting Europe from Russia. Hundreds of billions, mostly from Russia, but from other things too. And then they say, well, they don't want to get involved with guarding the strait where they get most of their oil. They get 50% of their oil, and they don't want to get involved. Why are we doing it? So all I want is fairness. And South Korea, I get along with them very well, but they were paying $3 billion a year, and then they convinced Biden that I was probably a bad person and they shouldn't, and he immediately rescinded that order. So we were getting paid. We would have been getting paid a lot more, but we can't go around and protect all of these countries, especially when they're not there to help us.
Okay, none of this is true. This is all lies. Yes, South Korea does pay the United States to help cover the cost of hosting American military forces. No, Joe Biden never did remove or rescind any payment or cost-sharing deal with South Korea. None of this is accurate, but then again, it still led to a confrontation in the Oval Office when a female reporter dared to pose a question about North Korea. I mentioned female reporter because President Trump has particular animus toward female reporters, apparently. You'll hear it on display coming up on the Medved Show. Just to clarify some of the facts behind what was going on in the Oval Office with President Trump and his total distortion of the reality of the relationship between the United States and our very reliable ally, South Korea. South Korea, by the way, is the 7th largest economy in the world. It's an important nation. It is, along with Japan, our crucial ally in Asia to counterbalance the Chinese threat. And the truth is, and you can find this anywhere, South Korea has paid the United States to help cover the cost of the U.S. military presence for 35 years. It's been paying us for 35 years. Formal cost-sharing arrangements known as special measures agreements began in 1991 and continue through active multi-year funding deals. And all of that has the 12th Special Measures Against Agreement, SMA. South Korea has paid the United States $1.52 trillion, and to offset the cost of hosting roughly 28,500 U.S. troops, not the 39,000 that the president erroneously claimed. So meanwhile, Trump in the Oval Office lost his temper, obviously, at a young female reporter who dared to ask a question about North Korea. It sounded like this, clip 19.
Quiet. You're very disrespectful in front of this young man, okay? Don't you find her disrespectful? He understands. Quiet. Who are you with?
CNN.
Fake news. You're fake news. You're a loud, boisterous person. You're fake news. Be quiet. Be quiet. Be quiet. You're a fake reporter, and you report fake news. Go ahead.
You report fake news. Go ahead. And then there is a comment by Kristen Holmes of CNN, and she asked a question about North Korea that was, she believed, real and justifiable at a time when Trump's foreign policy is completely spiraling. Here is Kristen Holmes, clip 5.
And Kristen, all of this clearly hit a nerve with Trump today. There are extremely serious and legitimate questions about what's going on here, of course, which you were asking there.
Yeah, and Aaron, there's precedent for this. That's why this question is so important. President Trump there saying that he had some kind of communication or opened the door to communication with Kim Jong-un. And then shortly afterwards, this announcement that they were scaling back the military exercises with our ally, South Korea. I'm going to bring you back several months to when Zelensky was coming to the White House, and the day before, we knew Zelensky was going to ask for Patriot missiles. The day before, President Trump talked to President Putin, and because of that phone call, the next day, he denied giving Zelensky Patriot missiles, citing conversations that he had had with Vladimir Putin. So this is a real and justifiable question. There's also an issue about how this pertains overall to the other crisis that he is facing, which is this war in Iran. The idea that North Korea has been stockpiling illegal nuclear weapons, what message is that sending to Iran that he is willing to support North Korea in this as they stockpile these illegal nuclear weapons, or at least look the other way? Now, all of this is coming at a point where President Trump seems to be, at least foreign policy-wise, completely spiraling, and that is likely due to what we are seeing here at home. There is no end in sight to this war in Iran.
Okay, and meanwhile, for asking this sort of question, the tweet on X from the White House. For the White House has a rapid response account on X. It took up the altercation and posted a video clip of the exchange and assailed Kristen Holmes of CNN as, quote, a disgusting, disgraceful, humiliating embarrassment to her alleged profession. In a follow-up tweet, the account then dipped into a more personal line of attack. They wrote, someday your children will come across your disgusting and inhumane question. They will be sickened and embarrassed to have a parent be so callous and vindictive. It is quite troubling, unquote. I mean, really? Really? And then CNN issued a statement defending Kristen Holmes, their reporter, calling her one of the most respected and accomplished journalists covering the White House, and said it rejects the attacks in the strongest possible terms. This afternoon, she did her job and asked the President of the United States a tough, relevant, and newsworthy question on behalf of the American people, a CNN spokesperson wrote in a statement. Public officials are free to challenge reporting they disagree with, but personal attacks on journalists for asking questions are beneath the office and inconsistent with the principles of a free press. So will Kristen Holmes be invited back to other press briefings? Meanwhile, Adam Kinzinger, a former member of Congress from Illinois, Republican, in a video published to social media, he had this to say about President Trump's suspending military exercises with South Korea. This is clip 18.
We are suspending exercises with South Korea because of his, quote, really good relationship with Kim Jong-un. And then he made the point that South Korea didn't participate in the Iran war. Now, I'd also like to remind you at this moment that North Korea has been supplying Russia with ballistic missiles to strike Ukraine. They've sent 50,000 soldiers to fight and are sending by some reports, up to 60,000 soldiers now to fight against Ukraine. They have nuclear weapons. They continue to threaten South Korea. And now Donald Trump claims he has a really good relationship. And really, he's throwing a hissy fit because they didn't participate in this stupid war in Iran that's drained us of our resources. This is idiocy. This is generational damage to America's reputation. If you don't want nukes in the world, then you don't do this. Because South Korea, Japan now, and our allies in Asia will be trying to get nukes because they no longer believe that the U.S.'s word is worth anything. And I don't blame them, honestly. This is absolutely bananas. And where are the Republicans?
Okay, where are the Republicans indeed? Because Trump didn't just attack South Korea, he also attacked Oman, another U.S. ally. This is John Roberts, who is confused about Trump's attacks. We will get to that coming up on the Michael Medved Show. We'll also be speaking with Gordon Chang about what is happening between the United States and South Korea, and why. Is there something that has actually provoked this negativity with one of our most important and closest allies? We will get to that and much more coming up on the Medved Show.
Join in your daily dose of debate.
You are not always right. Get a grip. You are not always right.
The Michael Medved Show.
And President Trump was feisty and confusing in his interactions with the press, including friendly press like Fox News. Again, President Trump doesn't seem to believe that Fox News is still friendly to him. But when you listen to what that broadcast contains, they obviously lean in a generally pro-Trump direction. They're proud of it. And John Roberts of Fox News asked President Trump an obvious question about his threat to attack Oman. Oman has been crucial to the United States in terms of any progress at all, and there's been very, very little of negotiating a settlement of any kind with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Oman has participated in that, helping to represent U.S. interests. Egypt has as well. But Oman is more relevant because they're right on the other side of the Straits of Hormuz. So John Roberts indicated his own confusion on why Trump is talking about attacking our ally, one of our allies in the Middle East. Yes, here is Fox News' John Roberts.
No, what's Oman been doing wrong? They were trying to engage in negotiations with Iran on the Strait of Hormuz. Apparently, they made their case. Then they turned it over to the U.S. in Iran and just been sitting on the sidelines ever since.
John, I don't see Oman doing anything that would make them complicit in supporting the Iranian regime. And I would rather the administration focuses on fulfilling the threats they've made to the regime. As an example, in the last few days, 3 tankers have been struck in the Strait of Hormuz. The administration has said there would be a strong U.S. response if that happened, and our credibility is on the line every time we don't follow through on those threats, and I'd rather we focus on that instead of making new threats to Oman.
Yeah, I know that Oman has got a close relationship with Iran, but I don't know what they've been doing to earn that.
Okay, despite Oman's traditional foreign policy of strict neutrality and its diplomatic back-channel role with Iran, the bilateral relationship encompasses formal security agreements, economic cooperation, and military access. That's reported by CBS News. And again, the idea of the United States threatening another close neighbor, well, I guess it goes along in some sense with President Trump suggesting that people who oppose the construction of the big, beautiful ballroom, which would be larger than every other structure in the White House complex combined, and much larger than the traditional White House itself. If anyone opposes that, President Trump says they're disloyal to our country. Really? Here's President Trump, clip 13.
The people who are opposing the ballroom and challenging it, have they offered any sort of solution or sort of compromise, or do they just say they're
So
there? What is
the people that are opposing the ballroom are people that, in my opinion, are very disloyal to our country, very, very disloyal to our country. And I think we're doing very well. We're way ahead of schedule. We're under budget. It's going to be the most beautiful ballroom of its kind. You know, when I was in China, we went to the Great Hall of China. It was this big, beautiful building, and we don't have anything like that. And we have to have that. It's very important. But we also are getting tremendous military protection, drone protection. The building is drone-proof. It's missile-proof as much as something can be missile-proof. It's totally bulletproof. Any bullet, nothing can go through the windows. We have, all top-of-the-line stuff. It's very safe. And the one thing, it's not for me, because I'm going to be here a very short period of time when it's finished. If it finishes right on time, on budget, on time, I'll be there for 4, 5, 6 months.
Okay, what's remarkable, and this is I think, a challenge to President Trump's rhetoric, which Jeremy Steiner, right, of Hillsdale College, came up with, which is when he says people are disloyal to our country, if you're questioning the importance of this huge ballroom project, which has already resulted in a very chaotic and, well, it's a construction site right now, the whole White House. And usually when you're talking about being disloyal to your country, you're talking about treason, right? Does he want to prosecute people who are opposed to the ballroom because they are disloyal and they are treasonous? Would President Trump also consider the rioters on January 6th who actually attacked the symbol of our democracy, the Capitol building, and befouled it? Would they also be disloyal? I mean, what's worse, opposing the ballroom like the National Trust for Historical Preservation is doing, because they don't think it fits in architecturally or historically. What's worse, opposing the ballroom or attacking the Capitol building and injuring more than 100 of the cops who were trying to defend that symbol of our nation? I mean, what's great is the people responding to the idea of disloyalty because you're opposed to the ballroom can think of the historical indications of treason and disloyalty. Benedict Arnold, who sold plans for West Point to the British during the War of Independence. Aaron Burr, the former U.S. vice president, who was tried for treason in 1807 after organizing a mysterious armed expedition in the Western Territories. Tokyo Rose and Axis Sally, American citizens who broadcast Japanese and German propaganda to Allied troops during World War II. And then there were Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, American citizens convicted of spying for the Soviet Union and passing atom bomb secrets, and both of them executed, by the way. I mean, is this really what we're talking about? And there's also this, which is a Washington Post ABC News Ipsos poll, shows that 56% of Americans say they oppose President Donald Trump's White House ballroom project. This reflects a roughly 2-to-1 margin against the plan, with only 28% expressing support and 16% undecided or skipping the question. So are 56% of Americans disloyal? Does this require getting out of mothballs or wherever it is that the gallows that have been prepared for Mike Pence? I mean, this is outrageous, and it is remarkable. Oh, yes, and then there was another question to Trump in the Oval Office by Kristen Holmes, the CNN reporter. Well, there will be more about, obviously, the ballroom and the need to spend $400 million, which has been spent already, apparently. And President Trump is bitterly opposed to any criticism or any questioning of the ballroom. And he also was asked to give a response, his own response to some of the attacks on him by Senator John Ossoff from yesterday, actually from over the weekend. And President Trump had his own very characteristic, very controversial response, which we will cover, plus the latest on the Korea crisis for this greatest nation on God's green earth.